To
Well,
us,
what's funny is
Justin.
mainnet is so cheap, we don't need L2s anymore. It's this weird paradox. I'm serious. Like, think about how much Uniswap costs at 7 gas. It's like single-digit dollars, like maybe even less.
Yeah,
I should check.
go for
Don't you
it.
think it's so
Sorry.
parasitic that like these L2s are stealing all the value accrual and they're emitting like billions of tokens a year? It's just like a huge drag on ETH price in multiple ways. Of course, all the core devs get allocations and all these protocols. They're just like double dipping, you know? So it's like, what's going on? Like, is ETH just fucked?
All right. Welcome to episode 45 of Study Lads. Jordy is jet lagged as hell, so I'll be leading this podcast today. So we got Justin, the CEO of Astaria, Jordy, CEO of Selene Capital, and Thiccy. He's actually here today. How are you doing, Thiccy? You don't look so well right now.
I'm doing well. It's kind of tired. It's a bad angle. So
It's definitely a bad angle. So I've been reading the comment section, and it seems like people have been complaining that Thiccy has been a little bit absent today, or in the past couple of episodes. So Justin, if you can share my screen, I have a little question for Thiccy. So in the live in the live stream we did last week, I actually let me just play this clip, and Thiccy can kind of go over what actually happened here.
And then I think the ETF actually launched, trading started, and inflows for the first couple of weeks were pretty disappointing. And I think Bitcoin went back down.
So a lot of people in the comment section was actually commenting on Thiccy. I mean, it looked like he was taking a Thiccy, right? Taking a dump here. And then I think like 20 seconds later, he just like left the show.
off the stream.
So like, what was happening there? Like what exactly was going through your head?
So I was like really long EPTC, because I was event trading the ETF approval. And I think at that time, like EPTC was just getting kind of shreked. And we've been holding these podcasts in the middle of the trading day, which is middle of the US hours, which was not an issue when we started the podcast last year, before the ETF started trading. But ever since the ETF started trading, there's been a lot more action concentrated in US hours. And this past month especially, I've just been like, I've always been caught in bad positions while the podcast is happening. So I either have to like skip it or hop off mid pod, just like as you saw last week.
Are you
I
putting
see.
on
So I guess
like
you're
position sizes that are like massive, like compared to what you normally do? Like, is it uncomfortable?
Last week's was definitely uncomfortable. I took it all off. I'm out of it. I'm done with ETH.
so
you and me both.
I'm done with ETH.
everyone's done with the.
But
So
Thiccy,
you're
we
just
saw, we saw, you shared a little bit about your P&L in the private Steady Lads chat, and it looks like things are going great. So how done with ETH can you be? Was it all from shorting ETH BTC, or what happened?
It was all from longing it, Justin. Yes, but I'm done with it. I think it's played out. I think everyone's long ETH now, and I don't think TradFi is that interested in buying ETH in the short term. So I think the cross is gonna pull back even more. It already has from where I exited, but I think it's gonna pull back even more locally.
Wow, that's a hot take there. So, I mean, right now, if you can pull up the ETH BTC chart, Justin, we're at 0.055. And we did put in a God candle, but we are pulling back a little bit. Actually, let's go around the study labs. Like, what do we think happens to ETH or this particular ratio, let's say in the next 2 months, end of July? Where do you guys think it will be trading at? Let's start with Justin, the ETH Maxi.
Yeah, so on the note of ETH BTC, I saw this Suzu tweet, which actually really resonated with me pretty strongly. He said, I don't think people are actually mad at Ansem or celebrities. They're mainly mad that ETH didn't break out past 4K despite ETF approval and Sol is firm yet again. I was also momentarily mad at this, but I've recognized that it is bullish for Sol. This is pretty interesting. So, I mean, Sol ETH, right, did go down like 25%-ish. But I think there's something to be said here. We're not seeing the reaction out of ETH that maybe we would have expected. I I do think inflows could be a little lackluster, Thicky, to your point. I mean, it seems like the market has just cooled off in general. This isn't the new shiny thing like the BTC ETF was. Although I do think it's still like incredible news in the long term. I think it might take a while for the market to react. So I'm not expecting, massive flows that send ETH BTC back to 0.075 anytime soon.
Wait, so what's so you think lower than 0.055 in 2 months, or
Give us a number.
In 2 months, I'll say 0.062.
0.062?
July
Okay.
30th, 0.062. Yeah.
All right. How about you, Jordy?
Look, when it comes to ETH BTC ratios, I think that each asset has different downsides and different like risk returns. So the probability of different things happening over like 6 months or a year is different. And with ETH, I don't think you need to compare it to other assets. You just need to compare it with itself and think about if the price is a good bet or not a good bet. It's not about underperforming. It's more, is this, kind of pound for pound, a good risk reward. And with ETH, right now, even though you guys are bearish, I think given an ETF is coming and the market's generally good, we should see at some point over the next months all-time high push. Doesn't make sense for ETH not to at least try to push towards an all-time high when ETH ETF flows are live. So Bitcoin might have a good return profile as well, and there might be reasons why it overperforms or underperforms, but I look at them as completely separate assets. And even though there's a correlation there, I think it's worth holding both, and that's how I'm doing it.
So give us a number, Jordy.
I don't know. I mean, the ratio like really depends on like how BTC does independently, like what national sentiment is like, what like companies and sovereign wealth funds decide to buy Bitcoin. It could be all over the place. I just think that ETH is still a good risk reward, and I don't see us falling below 3K, which was when the news came out. And so there's not that much downside here. And on the upside, I think, we should be able to, on some euphoria of good flows, like imagine if like we get like 2-3 days of good flows, like we should break all-time highs pretty quickly.
Nice. How about you, Thicky? What do you think about ETH BTC in the next couple of months?
Well, I definitely want to. I think I want to debate Jordy on his point because I feel like.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like the ratios are important in determining where like the marginal dollar is flowing in, and like usually if money flows into Bitcoin, then like Sol and ETH will both go up, just from like correlation. It can either be just like algos doing it systematically, or it can be just people being like, oh wow, Bitcoin's going up, so we go buy Sol and ETH. But I if the market thought that the ETF flows and ETH would actually do well, and if there is actually a lot of outside money waiting for these ETFs to buy ETH, then I don't know why like ETH BTC wouldn't just grind up straight into the launch of the ETF, which is what the bet I was taking looked like. That was the bet I originally took, was like ETH BTC is just going to keep grinding up because it's going to follow the same fractal as BTC did into its BTC launch. But the fact that it looks like ETH is stalling out and the marginal dollar isn't coming into ETH, it's coming to Bitcoin instead, makes me start questioning like, do people actually care about an ETH ETF? Like, does that actually drive that many
Marginal
flows?
dollar, like the concept of a marginal dollar, I think is not really applicable. There's different sources of dollars, and I think Bitcoin has its own different sources, and ETH has its own different sources. And the reason why I told you when you had that position, it's like a risky position. It's not like ETH is not going to do well. I just think at any given point, I would never be short Bitcoin. Like there are so many random things that can happen to the Bitcoin distribution where some large adoption happens specifically for Bitcoin. It's a different asset. When you're long ETH BTC, you're implicitly short Bitcoin, and I just can't imagine it ever being a good idea to be short Bitcoin. So that doesn't mean anything about how ETH is going to do. It's just a different return profile.
Well,
you have this like right tail where you just get wrecked by being short Bitcoin.
I mean, I guess like for me, the ETH BTC thesis relies on like ETH being superior store value to Bitcoin, And there's so much CME OI that's been added. There's around 10 billion of CME OI that easily can just rotate from Bitcoin into ETH and speculate on the ETH ETF, just like they did speculate on the Bitcoin ETF into the Bitcoin launch. And the fact that that isn't happening is kind of like a bad sign to me.
I mean, you're basing things on like a week or a few days of trading, and I think we've always kind of been surprised how things kind of bounce across certain levels sometimes and reposition quickly. Like with Solana, over the last weeks, there's been so many times where it looks like it's going to break out and then it just like massively underperforms everything else. I think we're kind of being stuck in this range. So, my point about Solana is the same about the other ones. It has its own return profile where, the downside is maybe kind of capped at like around 100 or 110 or whatever all those like funds bought at, because they're not going to puke for a loss easily. On the other hand, the upside might be capped because they have like so much to take profit on over like the next years, and so many funds have done those deals now, and they've absorbed like the latent demand that there was for liquid Sol. So you have to look at each return profile. It's all a bit different, and with ETH specifically, it's too early to tell. I think like one day can change everything. So I'm gonna be on GCR's camp and just hold both.
No, you're right. I think one day this ETH is very, very liquid, and like if one guy wants to buy ETH, he can just push the ratio up 5%, like in an hour if he wants to. It just makes
Justin, can you pull off a Michael Saylor and just start a ETH micro strategy?
I'll do my best. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
But I saw even Michael Saylor capitulated a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw that clip, but he was saying, it's kind of not just Bitcoin anymore. He was saying that all of these other tokens are becoming more legitimate, that are making Bitcoin even more legitimate. And he sort of recognized that there was a world out there aside from Bitcoin, which was interesting.
And I do think like this cycle there's going to be like the ETH of Michael Saylor. I long thought that it was going to be Mark Cuban, right? He like just sold a part of the Dallas Mavericks. He's been
turns out it's Donald Trump.
Wait, you don't think you don't think it's Richard Hart and Justin Sun?
Is Richard Hart still like out and about and buying stuff?
He bought $600 million of ETH in March or Feb in March
to stake an EigenLayer, right?
Yeah. Oh no, that was Justin Sun. But
okay.
Richard he just got it all into ETH.
What did he sell? Like his Pulse crap, like all that shit.
He had a ton of DAI, and like after he basically like burned his DAI to buy ETH, right? And that's when makers started freaking out. They're like, "Oh, like we're gonna lose all of our DAI. We have to go up our rates so that we don't lose it all."
Yeah. I specifically remember like last year when I was like just bulled up on Maker, one of the bull cases was Richard Hart owns all this DAI that he can't move. So like those DAI can't be redeemed, and all the treasuries backing that DAI, it's going to go into buybacks. But I guess, if you dump that DAI, then maybe like the Maker
piece. There's like a jail headline for Richard Hart, you're just gonna like max long Maker. That's the play.
That's like the most mid-curve thing to do.
I think it is interesting that the Trump piece and also Biden, right? Like this political shift we've seen seems to be more targeted and more ETH aligned. Like the political shift seems more ETH aligned than it does seem anything else aligned. I think the ETH ETF was a big point to that, and then also Trump selling a bunch of NFTs on Ethereum, holding ETH. Just think it's interesting how these tokens have always been political in our ecosystem, and now they're becoming political outside of our ecosystem, and alliances are forming. So I wonder if one day we'll have a presidential election that's, X coin versus Y coin, right? Like a candidate aligns himself with one coin and another candidate picks the other coin.
I mean, I think the ratio of like Trump to Bowden is a much better ratio to trade, because they have like similar return profiles, and that's a good one to try to navigate maybe.
Yeah, speaking of those coins, I do want to share this screenshot. So I saw this screenshot on Twitter when the whole Trump news happened, and Bowden just started pumping, Trump started just dumping. But if you actually look at the chart now, it fully reverted, or like went to the upside. So like Trump is now pumping, if you can see the screen, and then Bowden. I mean, this this chart is
Wow.
like very, very bearish. It's just like full retraced. What do you guys think about these political coins? I guess like the whole super or the meme coin super cycle thesis is that everything is gonna, or every real life event is going to be traded, and people are going to like just make these meme coins. Are you guys buying Bowden or Trump or MAGA or any of these meme coins, or like how do you guys think about it?
Well, several months ago, when Jordy first introduced Trump to me as sort of like a hedge against missing Bowden, I bought it, and I think I'm just going to hold it through the election. It's been pretty flat, or maybe up like 30% or so. But when Jordy was talking to us about the relative value of buying Trump versus Bowden, that thesis made sense to me. So I'm a small holder of Trump.
I mean, whenever the election happens, someone's going to lose, and then the loser's coin is going to fade into obscurity because, let's say Biden loses, like he's not going to be in the news at all, and so that coin like loses all its value more or less. Is there anyone who disagrees with that, or is that like a pretty understood?
I completely agree. I mean, that makes sense to me. But I also think that's taken a very long-term perspective. I mean, for all we know, these things might not even be around come November. But
Personally, I think if Trump wins, then Bowden's going to sell off, and then Trump's going to go up, and then they're both going to sell off. I think is what happens. I think they both go to zero right after the election.
I'm not sure. I think whoever stays in the news will have a chance to ride for the next few years, and then whoever loses is just gonna go to zero.
Yeah, I guess like on the topic of meme coins, I mean, Justin shared the tweet earlier about Suzu, and there's been a lot of discussions happening around celebrity meme coins. I think Iggy Azalea or whatever her name is, and Caitlyn Jenner dropped. I'm not really cultured here, but I just thought it was like pretty funny. There's so much anger on the timeline, and we don't have to talk about this, but even this post where I guess the ZK Sync team is now trademarking the ZK, I guess like that word. So if anyone launches any project with the ZK in it, then they can technically trademark or copyright infringe you and whatnot. Everyone is just so mad, and I literally just think that it's because everyone still owns ETH and it's not pumping. Like Thiccy, I think you were actually in a Twitter Spaces with one of these celebrities. What was your takeaway from these spaces? Are they actually trying to enter crypto, or are they just like trying to scam people?
I think it's just like the 21 cycle where they all go into these NFTs is like for them it just seems like an easy way to make a quick buck, and just depending on how whoever they partner with wants to run things, like it's probably just going to be like they'll probably go to zero like pretty quickly, and they'll maybe pull out 500 grand, maybe a couple million. But yeah.
Is it true that there's like this one whatever dude that Indian guy, whatever, I don't know what he is, but he's like the one behind the scenes making all these celebrity coins for them?
I think he made a couple, and he got like pretty infamous for doing it.
Yeah, I personally know someone from Ava Labs, and I think their general counsel has some tea on him, and I think he's gonna probably get sued and whatnot. Justin, if you can share my screen, I mean, these celebrity meme coins, I mean, maybe one of them is gonna like actually be a net positive in this space, but at the end of the day, they all just going up. they all just go to zero. And like I said, like I only think people are talking about this and
the best
being
performing coin is dead. It's a dead coin. So Kevin Hart's confession is dead, but it's only down 76%. So someone hasn't sold that last 24%.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That outperformed Bitcoin right on the way down. So maybe that's a better store value than most of these coins.
Are you taking a side on this, Thiccy? Like I saw that there's been a little bit of Zach XBT versus Ansem on different points of view. They're different.
I think Ansem's right in that like it is pulling in outside money into the space, and they're probably going to lose all their money, and it probably continues to give crypto like this sort of rep of being a scam. I thought this was going to be marginally bullish Sol, and it like was a tiny bit, but I think it's a fade now. But yeah, I mean, not doing much on. I haven't been following this too closely.
Justin, you like to try everything. Are you trying this stuff?
This is one, I don't know what it is. I think like maybe I just need a break, but for like the past 3 months, I really haven't been trying that much. I don't know if it's that nothing's excited me, but it's like so hard to get on board with these coins that you know are scams, right? Like, and it's purely just you're playing a money game, right? Like who can get in first and who can get out first. And yeah, I've avoided it so far, but I'm sure it's a lot of fun. It's just, I like to try things where there's like airdrop potential or potentially new tech involved and whatnot. And just, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, like, is it me or like, I feel like it's so easy to get jaded right now. I log into Twitter and everyone's just talking about celebrity coins or like ZK patents. And I don't know, I feel like the vibes have been off for so long. Maybe it's because ETH isn't pumping, but like, how do you guys like? How do you guys remain optimistic in the space? I just feel like every time I log on Twitter, I'm just like, what am I doing here? Um, how about you, Justin? You're building. How do you just remain optimistic?
Yeah, I feel like there's something else going on that's not just about price because ETH is almost at $4,000. Bitcoin's like basically at 70 at the time of recording or a little lower. We're like basically close enough to the all-time highs that we should all be pretty happy. And all of us that held out through the bear market should be pretty happy, like if we're just talking about price. But that's obviously not the case. Clearly, like people are frustrated when I think like the majority of people are in profit now. So I think it honestly it's a side effect of like our space devolving into more like leading more into the money games stuff than actual like adoption and innovation. I mean, like it's easy to get disillusioned with the tech right now because we don't have anything to get too excited about, right? Even if you're really in the weeds, there's no new narrative that's coming that people are hyped about. Like Eigenlayer came and went. There's not really new projects that are launching that people are extremely excited about. So I think a lot of us are bored in the space, and when we're all playing the same game again and again, which are these like money games with meme coins, it just gets more and more hostile, right? And so,
I
yeah,
have
it's
a similar but different take. I've noticed that each category has a lot more competitors than it used to, and I think
mm,
that's why there's like constant taking of teams, and you're seeing it even on the VC side. Like all the VCs are like, "Oh, you're not doing due diligence. Like, what kind of DD did you do on this guy?" Like the VCs are doing their game because they're all trying to raise from the same like pool of money, same institutional and allocators, and then like just take any space, like even you have LayerZero and bridges, and I thought it was just going to be Axelar and Wormhole, but now they got this across bridge arguing with them on who is like 5 cents cheaper and 8 seconds, and there's this like argument with our last guest Primo about, are people going to prefer waiting 5 minutes and paying like half, or waiting 10 seconds and then like paying full price, like which one? And they're arguing about like which one is a better. And then on the restaking side, I mean, you have like 6 different projects entering that category. On the staking side, on the eigenlayer side, there's so many eigenlayer competitors now, and I think it's just the game has changed. There's more builders that have been attracted at this point. We're at saturation level. Paradigm has changed their game. They're like realizing that they should be backing full competitors early. So instead of just letting eigenlayer take that lane, we're just gonna back a completely different team. And I think that's why the vibes are deteriorating. And when you see something like the ZK token, they felt like somebody stepped on their shoes by trying to beat them to the punch. And Polyhydra, I guess, was it that took the ZK ticker before them, and then they're just like, well, we're the real ZK, so like get out the way. We're just gonna smash you. And it seemed to have worked because they forced them to change the ticker, so they are the big guy in the room. But then you have everyone attacking them, Starkware, which is another competitor in their space, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are not going along with the ethos." So I think it's just too many firms building in the same verticals.
Yeah, and there's just so many new tokens, right? Even Paradigm is backing the eigenlayer competitor called Symbiosis, and I just thought like Lido is gonna create some restaking product, but I guess there's gonna be a new product with a new token. It's just so many damn tokens. I did like Thiccy. I thought you were like trying to talk. What were you going to say?
I mean, if you want to pull up like a chart of just stable coins, they topped on April 20th, and they basically have been flat for the past month. And yeah, I agree with you guys that like I feel like, you know, when the pie stops growing, everyone just gets increasingly, you know, -3, and I think that's what's happening with the vibes. Like there really is not much new money coming into the space. It's all rotational. And yeah, like Jordy said, they're all like fighting for the same pool of capital. In every vertical, all the projects fighting for the same users, all the VCs are fighting for the same LPs. You know, it's just like it tends to do that when things stop growing. So yeah, it's not very surprising to me, and it matches up with my sort of macro view in crypto.
And your macro view is that there's hundreds of millions of dollars of altcoin emissions, and the fair price is zero, and the only reason to buy them is for catalysts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, the casino always has to take a rake, and that's supposed to be offset by an increase of stablecoin supply, and because it's been flat, then like, you know, the rake's a lot more noticeable.
Do you guys think, like on that note of price being flat and sort of choppy for a while now, sentiment being terrible, stablecoin inflows slowing down, like are we potentially in a bear market? We just don't realize it yet, and it's sort of like setting the stage for another massive run up in the cycle?
No,
Have you forgotten what it was like in the actual bear market already, Justin?
this is
I
not a
thought,
bear.
I mean, we should look back
Oh my-
40 episodes ago, but we were cheery and jolly.
No,
We were
I mean,
talking about the tech.
like, remember 2022? Like there was like a period where there was like 12 straight red weekly candles of ETH. Like that was so painful. Like, like I was like, after the sixth red candle, I was like, okay, surely this one has to be green. And then that continued on for like a month and a half. I don't think things can go much worse, or things can get like much worse than that. But like, do you guys think this, like, how would you characterize this market? Is it like a technical bull market? Is it like a vibe set? Like how would you characterize this market? Let's go with let's say Jordy.
I think it's going to be a protracted bull market that, you know, has choppy periods, and the flows will keep coming in on the majors. And of course, there'll be some winners on the altcoin side. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, everyone's going to compete over the same sources of like underlying value. I mean, we saw Ethena did so well on basis, and now there's like 80 products trying to do basis. You know, Jupiter is the one that I'm kind of waiting to see who's gonna, because, you know, everyone in the Solana ecosystem was kind of playing nice, and they let Jupiter maybe run away with it, even though they're trying to do perps and they're trying to do aggregation and everything else. I'm curious to see who's gonna go for that huge pie, because I think the thing is still trading at like over 10 billion FTV. So someone's gonna go after that as well. Bottom line, I think this market, I would characterize it as a bull market that is, you know, rhyming, but not the same as the last one.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a market where Bitcoin and ETH is in a bull market, and people are just waiting for like the altcoin pump that will come at some point, but it just never comes, and it's only happening in like meme coins. It's like very selective. I guess like very a big dispersion in performance, and as like an ETH bull, it's pretty painful. I mean, that being said, holding ETH has been pretty good. ETH BTC has been weak, but I've gotten so much airdrops that maybe like the real value of ETH BTC is slightly higher.
And the
But
3% staking yield. Do not forget about the 3% yield.
yeah, this is Tyke and Justin's just coping. Just
Yeah.
holding ETH. I was also thinking like, I mean, I use the chain pretty often because I farm and stuff, but I'm just like airdrop farming, I'm like just bridging to L2, like tokenless L2s, restaking with like LRTs or EigenLayer. Like when's the last time you actually use a chain for like a non-farming use case, like an actual use case, like however you define that to be. I feel like if you take out like the non-bot transactions on chain, like those transactions, I feel like 90% of the transactions are people like just airdrop farming, or like punting meme coins. There's like nothing really to do, like there's so much
the one app I've been spending a good bit of time now that's actually pretty interesting is Polymarket. They've just like, I don't know when everyone last looked at it, but like the app has just gotten so much better progressively, and I really think they earned that funding round. But I think they're just dominating in the prediction market space. It's actually really encouraging to see. That's one place where crypto adoption has really taken off with normal people. It's the most liquid presidential betting market. There's also a ton of crypto native stuff that people are betting on. There's farming, potential airdrop farming. So I've been using Polymarket quite a bit, honestly. That's off of the Polygon chain. So
How do the fees work? I'm curious because I used to trade Betfair quite a lot back in the day, and they just take, I think, like 5% of the net winnings at the end. How does Polymarket take a fee?
I actually don't know. It's a good question. I suppose that's bullish for their business model.
Have they settled your ETH ETF money?
Yes, yeah. That was, within hours actually they had resolved that to approved, and I got paid out, claimed my stables. Really smooth. I mean, the user experience is really smooth. Like depositing is as smooth as using Bovada. Withdrawing is even better. They've really been crushing it.
You got like a 12x on that, right?
I averaged it. I bought in at 7 cents, and then my average price was 10 cents. So, like, yeah, about 10x.
Humble Justin. But yeah, take a look at the fees and maybe tell us next time, because as a trader, I'm always maybe like sensitive to understanding what the casino cut is.
Yeah,
You're being
absolutely.
picky.
They're also incentivizing liquidity providers too. So if you're like providing bid side or ask side liquidity, they are providing USDC incentives, and presumably there's some airdrop there. So maybe that's a good opportunity for folks.
You know what I want to ask you guys about? Why is Gwei so low? ETH moved up 30%, and like we still minted 10,000 ETH over the past week. What's going on?
And gas is at 7 right now. I just checked.
It's so low.
It's
It's hard to imagine that it's really like the L2 adoption we've all been praying for the past few years. Like, of course, L2 growth is insane. Like those charts are actually staggering. Taki, I don't know if you have any of those handy, but the amount of addresses transacting on Base, Optimism, et cetera, is mind blowing. But yeah, it's still very concerning that gas on mainnet, where the majority of economic value should be settled, is so low. I definitely think it's a concerning signal.
ETH is a ghost town. ETH mainnet is a ghost
Mhm.
town. No, everyone's moving off. Soon there will be no dApps on ETH L1. They'll all have their own app chain.
Well, Jordy and I talked about this, right? With like ETH with 4844 ETH cannibalize their own business, right? Like they drop the cost of L2s that settle to Ethereum, and then they push all of the apps and development off of mainnet. And so now the business model for Ethereum is definitely in a tricky spot. But it's been interesting to see how
That was the
plays out.
exact timeline at which the gas dropped off, was when the L2s 10x improved on their fees. So
Right.
I do think it's related to that. I
It
actually
is.
use ETH mainnet a lot every day. And yeah, I'm happy it's cheap for whatever reason.
Cody is a good taxpayer.
he is paying rent
Well,
to us,
what's funny is
Justin.
mainnet is so cheap, we don't need L2s anymore. It's this weird paradox. I'm serious. Like, think about how much Uniswap costs at 7 gas. It's like single digit dollars, like maybe even less.
Yeah.
I should check.
Go for it.
Don't you think it's so
Sorry.
parasitic that like these L2s are stealing all the value accrual and they're emitting like billions of tokens a year? It's just like a huge drag on ETH price in multiple ways. And of course, all the core devs get allocations and all these protocols are just like double dipping, So it's like, what's going on? Like, is ETH just fucked?
It doesn't need to be a drag, right? Like those tokens can just get rotated back into their ETH pair as they get sold. And then we've talked about this, but ultimately the bullish case for ETH is not the fees, but it's the community money. Like if all these L2s are using ETH as like the base currency for everything, then it sort of becomes a good alternative to Bitcoin for certain communities. That's a much bigger pie, and I think that's the only way that ETH goes stratospheric. Otherwise, if it's just a tech stock with I've said the PE of ETH before, and I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's like 100. So as a PE ratio, purely on the fees, it doesn't make sense.
Wait, like Jordy, like what do you use ETH mainnet for? Like, just curious.
Definitely for like swapping a lot. So I still use cow swap or 1inch, or I guess like LPing into Uniswap. That's still where all the payments are happening. People just want mainnet money. Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff. It seems like there's still a lot of uses for mainnet.
Yeah, like me personally, like all I've used mainnet for is to claim airdrops and to bridge to tokenless L2s. That's like all I use ETH mainnet for.
I
And
think
I
you're
was also
conflating though, Taiki. I think you're conflating a little bit about like the lack of things to do on mainnet with just like Ethereum specifically. It's just there's not much to do in general. Like I don't think it's an ETH mainnet problem. Like I'm pretty confident in saying I think like the next big apps will still continue to be in the ETH ecosystem. We just don't have them yet.
I mean, Chow would disagree. He's like in the pump.fun. He's in the fantasy top, all this stuff. I mean, that stuff making a ton of money, and maybe it's not going to last, but that's use cases, right? Like fun stuff like that, like random
Well,
stuff.
fantasy.top is on Blast, and
Yeah,
pump.fun is Solana, of course, but
yeah, but like the concept of like those apps, are they not real use cases?
I put them, no, they're real and they're fun, but I put them in the money games category where it's like a new way to gamble and speculate. So it's real. It's just not, it's like nothing new under the sun, right? To get people coming back into the space and excited.
Yeah. And to double click on what Thiccy said earlier, I was actually listening to like a debate with Justin Bonds and some other guy, and he was actually talking about like exactly what you said, Thiccy. It's like if you're like a smart dev, it's like why would you work on ETH mainnet and get paid a salary by consensus? Like why not just work for an L2, get a token, and just like dump that token and just retire? So there's like there's like this incentive to never work on ETH mainnet and just keep working on these new L2s, and then there's like new tokens being printed every single like in the next couple of weeks there's gonna be zk sync. Like I honestly have no idea what they're gonna do because that chain is only civils. It's really it's really sad. And then maybe in like Q3 or Q4 there's gonna be like Tycho and like Scroll, and then that's gonna add 10 billion FDV at least to everything, and then that's gonna be a ghost town. So
Yeah.
I guess there is also like this perverse incentives where if you're like a smart guy, like you just create a new project, and like the base chain like doesn't really improve that much.
Yeah, my concern about ETH is like I feel like it's already lost the casino narrative to Sol, and I don't think it's ever going to come back. And the only thing it depends on is sort of TradFi adopting this as a global store of value, and because I don't know, because proof of stake is superior to proof of work. It was my thesis, and like I don't know, I still feel like this basically apathy from TradFi is not a good sign for ETH. Like it might not be for 8 years until we have 2 more halvings, when Bitcoin actually has a threat of getting 51% attacked, that like that rotation to ETH actually happens. And in the meantime, it just bleeds lower because it has just like worse sort of demand by the crypto natives than Solana.
But what about the thesis that big institutions will use Ethereum as a settlement layer, like we've seen with the BlackRock Biddle fund?
I think it's possible, but like unless it directly translates into them buying ETH, if they're just burning like tiniest amount of fees, then it doesn't really matter too much, right?
At 7 Gwei, how much does it matter?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just a narrative, right? And maybe Larry Fink shills like the ESG and tokenization narrative, but I guess like that's kind of what we hope for. I feel like the entire crypto community is like cheerleading Larry Fink. It's like, please shill our bags, and that's kind of the state of the market right now.
Yeah, how do you guys think ETH even gets shilled to a boomer, like a one-liner for ETH? If Bitcoin is digital gold, like what is ETH?
You can build any application on top of it.
It's like it's like the new NASDAQ. But then Solana can also get that narrative too, right? So it's not specific to ETH, but I guess it's like the most Lindy, safest, environmentally friendly, more degen. If Bitcoin does well, then people will eventually rotate to ETH eventually. Who knows? Maybe there's like a 60-40 type of market cap weighted Bitcoin ETH like product that
We'll see. I mean, I think you guys are a bit
we need some hopium, Jordy.
Yeah, we'll see different things come up. I think the AI category and finding a way for blockchain to be like a key component of that is entirely possible, even though it was dismissed initially. The only thing I'm not bullish on is the Prometheum launch, and you can click here, maybe Taiki, and you can see what the room is like here in Austin, where I am right now. Yeah, there's a lot for Prometheum.
Damn, that's like all 5 of StarkNet's users. They're all there.
What is Prometheum, Jordy?
This is the exchange that's gone the regulated route and
Oh
trying to
yeah.
attack everybody else and be like, we're the compliant ones.
We need some
Yeah.
hopium though. We can't like everyone says we're too depressing. We need like some hopium, you know? Like you guys have seen those comments like these guys are always bearish. Like if you listen to them, you'd be down. You've missed the whole run up.
I mean, the thing is, like, I think we're all bullish to space. It's just that, like for me, like I entered a space, last cycle, and I was, when I used Aave for the first time, I was like, oh my god, like this is amazing tech. And then 4 years later, I mean, if you ask me in 2020, like, what would the space look like? I would have been, I would have expected it to grow, and advance much further. And I think there's like that disappointment as well within the crypto natives. And yes, we are making money, Bitcoin, ETH going up, and airdrops. I mean, the thing is, like, people getting like 4 or 5 figure airdrops, like that's still like crazy, right? I think someone said like, you can actually just make a living off of just farming airdrops. So the
Easily,
space is pretty, the space is like insane if you think about it that way. But I think people just have these expectations, and people look back to last cycle and the alt season and the pumps that we've had. And I think people expect that this time around, and it just hasn't happened. And then everyone's just like so angry and so upset. And that's kind of the result of, I guess, negative vibes and us being, kind of jaded.
I'm pretty bearish.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
pretty
yeah, I
bullish.
mean, I mean, I'm pretty bullish, but
If you guys are so down and you need to cheer up, get a Pudgy. I mean, look at this news now. They're even going to release mobile games. So after all the Walmart, Target stuff, there's more stuff in play. And now that I'm a member of the Pudgy community, oh, there we go. Do you own that one, Taiki?
I did. Then I sold.
Oh,
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
I don't know what to do with
What am I
it.
supposed
Please buy that back.
You're not allowed to hold that anymore. You gotta like burn it.
Burn it.
Dude, like,
You're
no, like
infringing.
I bought this. Dude, I bought this when I was farming Blur at like 4 ETH, and I was like, yo, like I'm gonna buy this. And then it became like 13 ETH, and I'm like, this thing is worth like 40, 50K. Like, this is crazy. I just sold. I'm not gonna be the bag hold. I'm not gonna have this bag holder mentality. I'm probably gonna be canceled by the Pudgy community. But I still have this. I will buy it back eventually. But what am I gonna do with this?
That was such a good one too. You had a nice
Is
one.
that a rare penguin? Yeah.
No, it was a common. I just bought the floor. Or I think I set a bid and this got dumped into my bids. This was actually like one of my best trades, because I got like the Blur airdrop and like I got all the Pudgy airdrops too, and I like, just dumped them all. Or most
Do you need
of them.
to go to the Discord and like do something to get the airdrops, or does it just come to your wallet?
You just have to claim it, and I'm sure there's gonna be other Pudgy airdrops as well. I'm sure this clip is gonna be this video is gonna be clipped, and I'm gonna be trolled at some point. But
Are
They
mini
announced,
penguins anything?
the LayerZero one yet. I'm pretty sure our last guest is going to give something to the Pudgy community, and hopefully the snapshot is recent because I've only got it recently.
Is it too late, Jordy? Can I still buy a penguin?
I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to tell us. I've noticed that actually, like the teams and the founders are getting pretty serious about not revealing any kind of points criteria. Hyperliquid is definitely one that has been surprising people often with how they've been doing things and changing it up. And I think internally they have a very strict policy of not being able to act on that. And maybe we can bring up some of the tweets, Taiki, from Hyperliquid. But that was the other drama recently, is that they actually announced that they will be having a new points season, even though it was supposed to have ended the beginning of May. And the game just goes on. They're going to airdrop for all of May, even though it was supposed to be kind of done. And here we go again. So another 4 months, apparently. There were mixed reactions. I think some people were pretty happy that they're expanding their vision to doing a little bit of what Monad is doing, I guess, becoming a generalized L1 with some unique changes to the EVM. On the other hand, there's a lot of comments. If you can scroll down, there's like some people saying like, "You were the chosen one. Like, what have you done? Like, we're like done with points." So yeah, we see Hasaka saying we had a good thing, and there's a lot of this ain't it. So yeah, you were the chosen one. 550 likes. It's quite a reaction there. So I think the community is unsure about this.
Well, if you look at the price of per, if you can share my screen, it's approaching all-time highs. So I guess if you're a per holder, you're happy. And I guess it's because if the points program is extended, then maybe there's more incentives to hold per because if you hold per, you get airdrops and points, and I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad. Like maybe it's not that bad.
Let's do a pasta maybe. I'm pretty excited.
Let's do a pasta. How about you, Justin? You can go first. You've been on a roll lately.
I have. Although I lost out to Brian last week. So I've got another feature from Evan. Evan's one of my big picks. I keep picking him. He's just puts out banger tweets, but he has this BTC Maxi quote tweeted. The BTC Maxi said, "You all are about to understand why securities regulations exist and why reporting requirements are a thing, because Consensus is about to sell their 70% pre-mine on ETH." And Evan quote tweeted that and said, Consensus finally succeeded in the 10-year-long con of checks notes getting an ETF approved. They will now proceed to dump everything. This is not a drill. Just hilarious take from this is just like classic Bitcoin maxi cope that thinks all other tokens are scams. Like just this idea that Ethereum has been one continual scam for the past 10 years, that nothing's actually been built, that it's all been a fraud, and now is finally the time when Consensus and all the insiders get to dump. Absolutely hilarious.
How much ETH do they have? Consensus.
I think it's less than Justin Sun.
Really?
You think so? I thought they hold more.
Yeah, I thought they had more.
But Joe Lubin at least has,
I think it's unknown how much Joe Lubin has, but it is a decent amount.
Decent.
I think it's under 1% though, right? It's 0.75%. I'm not positive though.
Of all the ETH, it's almost 4 billion.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, he's winning. Speaking of winning, how about you, Thiccy? What's your pasta this week?
That's a good question.
What is that white stuff on your face, dude?
He's about to get burned on his pasta, so he's getting some.
So Tarun published this paper on an analysis of intent-based markets. If you scroll down, you can see the original picture where it's it's like the trolley problem, but mixed with the Monty Hall problem. Or was it Monty Hall or Monty Python?
Yeah,
Monty
Hall.
Monty
Hall.
And this guy just quote tweeted it and mixed the trolley problem with it. Just put some bodies on there. It's you want to run over 8 people to get a Ferrari, or do you want to run over 2 people to get a goat? I thought it was so funny because it's so reflective of quickness.
That is amazing. That is a fantastic tweet.
Yeah, and this is the true intent-based market. Just stealing from others to get a Lambo. Ferrari.
Yeah,
this is crypto.
Yeah, or scanning 2 people's eyeballs to buy a goat with WorldCoin.
Still waiting for my WorldCoin airdrop.
I was excited. I thought I was gonna have a chance, but that's pretty epic. But I do have a couple killer ones from Gordy Gort, who has just been knocking out the bangers. It's just crazy. But I tweeted today, I hope this judge weighs the fact that Trump promised ongoing utility to his NFT holders in his sentencing. So that's a good take. And then I have one more from Gort. He says, I'd have no problem if Iggy Azalea launched an L2 with native yield. At least then I'd know she's trying to push the space forward. It's always these very crypto native that tie into the the happenings of the day that, yeah, very, very entertaining. And maybe we should get Gordy on the show. I think Gordy has his own podcast, so we should try to get him on.
Yeah, that would be funny. All right, I guess I'll go last with my pasta. And I guess this podcast called Steady Lads, and recently we found out that 100% of our viewership is men.
Not true.
If you can,
It's not true.
100%, 100%. I mean, the data don't lie. Data don't
No, I know
lie,
it's
Jordy.
false. I know my mom watches every episode religiously.
Okay, we have one. Maybe we
There's
have
a lot
few
of
others.
females in the comments that said that they watch it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Real
okay,
ones,
okay.
okay?
Real
Real
ones.
girl.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't understand, but they're real.
The top signal is when one woman watches the Steady Lads podcast. That'll be the top. We
But
will know the
if
top.
Justin's mom
We have
watches,
the
is that the
data.
top?
I think moms don't count. If it's relatives, they're expected to support.
Yeah.
We need a non-mom female
And
to
we can update the audience as we go. The second we see that tick to 1%, I think 1 is a little bit, too bearish. But if it hits 1% and it registers on the YouTube charts and the YouTube algorithm, we got to blast that out to the world and tell everyone to sell.
Hi, Justin's mom. Can you get some friends?
Thiccy, have you
Thiccy
enjoyed
wins
that
this
watch,
time.
by the way?
I have. Yeah.
You've worn it? I still got to send you. I've got the strap, like an extra strap it came with, and like all this shit.
I see. So I guess the ETH ETF bet, Justin got a Pudgy, Thiccy got a watch, and Justin gets 1 ETH. Is that the settlement?
Justin's getting an ETH. I don't know about the Pudgy.
An ETH and a gift.
What? Are you gonna rug him?
An ETH and a nice, thoughtful gift.
Pudgy's 35 grand, Tyke.
Dude, we saw your P&L, man.
Oh my god.
Can I just get an ETH and a nice, thoughtful gift? I don't care about it could be a card for all I care, but an ETH and then something thoughtful.
Of course, Justin.
Thank you.
All right. So I mean, I feel like Thiccy's right. It was a right curve pasta, but I personally liked it. I don't know about you guys.
I like
You like
Tyke's. I think it was insightful,
Oh, sick.
astute, and thoughtful.
The female is going to be the top. That's the
Yeah, the
insightful.
1%.
Okay.
All right. I guess the female is the top. That's the
That's
the winner.
You self-declared the winner. Oh, okay. I think we need to go back to live episodes so we can let the viewers choose.
Maybe we don't know the winner until after the episode's aired.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Can do a Twitter
Yeah.
poll.
Twitter poll. Yeah. You got to farm that engagement on the Steady Lads Twitter.
So we should
Yeah.
the video of the pasta of the week and then have them vote on Twitter. That makes sense.
Yeah.
This was a fun episode. Any final words, guys? Any lads with the final word?
Thanks for hosting, Tyke, and yeah, let's rotate the lads over the next couple weeks.
All right, rotate the lads. All right, thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Tyke.
See you.